back to the channel. My name is Crawford. This is Virginia is for Lowriders. This weekend, before the holiday stuff happens, which kind of shortens up my time to knock some stuff out, we're going to try and get as much done as possible. We're going to bounce around a little bit like I normally do because, again, ADD, OCD, ADOC, some kind of letters jammed together doesn't allow me to just start and finish stuff for some reason. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to bounce around. And yesterday I came out and started knocking some stuff out. I went through and from the factory, Mazda frame rails, you can see where I started here and it's not finished yet. Mazda frame rails are boxed, but there's a lip. There were so many booger welds and crappy things done to this frame over time. I don't know why I didn't just cut it off and start over. I just get into things where I'm like, I can fix that. And I try and convince myself if I can fix that, and that turns into like way more work. If I would have just cut it off, the truck probably be driving by now because I wasted like weekend after weekend trying to fix this stuff. But again, I'm not the brightest crayon, so we're going to do stuff. I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do, but we're just letting ADD take the wheel again, like we've been doing, and it's been working out. We've been knocking stuff out pretty quickly. It's just all over the place. So if you like to watch a straight shot, I apologize. We're getting it done in a roundabout way. I don't know. I'm just rambling. So this weekend, I think the goal is to remove the rotors, the drum, or the calipers, everything from here. Take all of that terrible green paint off with the sandblaster. I have new calipers, new rotors, pads. I have new drums for the rear and shoes. I'm not sure if we're going to get to the rear this weekend. I think the first goal is get the front end completely stripped down, sandblasted, hopefully painted, and then reassembled. That way, because I've been waiting for myself to talk myself into doing all of that to get rid of that terrible green, we can start building the brake lines from there. I haven't touched the brake lines yet because the soft lines need to be mounted. I didn't want to mount the soft lines until blah blah blah, where, yeah, you get it, what I'm trying to say here. So I will add the footage from yesterday, which is just me basically grinding and cutting. I went through, cut the edge off the back of the cab, started getting all that prepped because the way I did the body drop, if you went back through and watched the previous videos, I didn't do the standard taking the 2.5 inches or 3 inches, whatever it is, out of the center of the cab wall. Instead, I cut the seam, lowered the cab, and welded it on the inside. That way I don't have to spend hours grinding and making that look nice. It looks normal, factory. I'm not sure why this isn't a thing. Maybe there's a reason, if somebody could let me know. So if you watch the last couple weeks, you understand that I just really don't like laying underneath things and welding and grinding. So I procrastinate on it, but I did lay underneath of it, and I did cut most of the mounts off and got most of the underside prepped. Not all of it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to bounce around. That way I'm not working on that for hours on end. I have some other things to occupy my mind in the meantime. But we're rambling. We're just going to jump into it this week. We're going to try and use some of the parts we actually bought like 6 months ago probably. They've been in that little tote over there. So yeah, let's tear the front end apart. We're going to be rebuilding stuff. We're going to be welding. We're going to be cutting and grinding and painting and you name it. We're doing it in little bits this time. Oh, one more thing that I wanted to add. I knew that I was going to be in the cab soon doing the brake master cylinder and the clutch and all that stuff. So I went through and removed all of my welding shield stuff off the glass. And that turned into trying to get that sticky stuff off of the tint because that 3M stuff has a light film on it. I'm pretty sure it's meant to be put on and then removed like in the same day, but this stuff's been on there for weeks now. So trying to clean that and it didn't work, turned into me removing the tint, which turned into noticing the absolutely terrible water spots that will not come out of that glass. I have some of that stuff that you used to see ads for all over Facebook, the Sud Factory or something like that, and it works. It just takes forever, and if you try and do it with anything that rotates, all that does is scratch the window. So I ordered some griots stuff that should be here by the end of this video. So we'll try and polish the glass. I'm not sure if that works. I don't know. I read a lot of stuff saying that does work, so we'll see what happens. But I'm getting carried away and rambling, so I'm going to shut up and we're going to do some mechanical work first. Before we start taking stuff apart, I went back and rewatched all that. I just get carried away and rambling and just... So the reason I was talking about the frame being boxed in that I didn't explain because I saw something else shiny and my mind can't stay on track. That's boxed. I welded it because it has been welded so many times and there's so many booger welds on there that need to be fixed. I just started welding stuff up. I should have just back halved it and I'd be driving the truck by now. But I welded that seam all along both sides and all of the stuff that was on here. Welded all the random holes that from the self-tappers over the years of this truck being alive and smoothed all this out. So when you see that footage, that's what was going on. And same thing will be happening all over this. I'm keeping all of my nice welds, the stuff that I tried to fix their welds, and I attempted to grind all that stuff off and weld in place of it, but it doesn't really work. But let's just stop talking about stuff and take stuff apart. Probably a good thing I'm doing this because that is really dry. There's only grease on the outside. There's some cute little bearings in these things. I work with tapered bearings pretty regularly, but nothing ever this small. This thing's teeny tiny. That spindle's almost comical how small it is. All right, it's the next day. Last night we got the calipers, rotors, hubs, all that stuff off. Got the backing plates. So you'll see that I got everything as far as these guys go sandblasted and cleaned, and I still got to get the sand out of this one, but this one's just about ready to go. Today I woke up, hit Northern Tool, got some sandblasting sand because using the sandblaster turned into like a 2-hour project yesterday. The dust topper thing that goes as part of the filtration for my vacuum, so my vacuum's not just sucking up terrible stuff. That thing ended up being cracked, and it's been probably cracked for a long time, which turned into it not working for a long time. And my vacuum was completely packed full of that extremely fine dust. So luckily it didn't burn it up. I had actually bought another one of those things because that one's like designated to that area. It's kind of hard to get out of there. I bought one to use for drywall work, and I haven't used it yet because I don't know when I'll ever get to house projects, but I put that on there, all that's working again, and it actually has enough suction to clear it out while you're using it to where you can actually see what you're doing. But the problem I was running into last night, I haven't changed that sand out in a really long time. I don't know if you've ever messed with sandblasting cabinets, but the longer the sand is in there, the finer it slowly turns. It turns from a sand into a really fine powder because it's just pulverizing itself against things. So I picked up 2 bags of sand. Haven't tried that kind yet. Picked up a couple of cans of caliper paint. I couldn't find gloss. I wanted to do gloss black to break some stuff up. I drove to like 4 different parts stores today and looked around on the internet, and nobody had gloss black. So it's getting flat black just like everything else, which will still look good. The spindles they appear to be powder coated silver, which I think I'll leave them that because they are actually in pretty good shape once I wiped them down a little bit. I'm not a big fan of silver paint, but this doesn't look terrible. They need cleaning a little bit more. These need a fresh coat of paint. I was going to get them powder coated, but I don't know if that's going to happen before all of this other stuff gets assembled. Today we're going to cut the shock tabs off and move the shock in a little bit and change the tab because I wasn't happy with those when I did those before it was my truck. So yeah, we're going to get right back on to mechanical work. I have a box full of brand new goodies, calipers, rotors, bearings. I asked every parts store I went to today if they carried the dust caps, which nobody does. The only ones you can get are from the help section. And I didn't bring the old one with me, so I couldn't size it up. So I'm going to attempt to clean up the old dust caps and sandblast all the terrible green off of them and put them back on. They're not all beat up, so yeah. We're going to stop rambling. Probably going to go through like 5 cans of brake clean, getting all the packing grease stuff off of all of that stuff. We're going to tape and paint and sandblast, hopefully, again in the next hour or 2 after I spend however long cleaning that thing out, and I'm going to shut up and we'll get back to work. If you ever do this, make sure you're wearing a mask. I buy the silica-free stuff, but I'm pretty sure this stuff is still absolutely terrible for you to breathe. This makes such a big mess, too. I used to be able to swing this down and catch it in the bucket. I haven't done it since I put all this stuff on there. Not really sure how this is going to work. Don't breathe this. So I don't have a problem with the green as far as the color green. The reason I keep saying this terrible green that's on this truck is this. That's not rust spots. That is a complete lack of preparation when it came to painting these and layering a whole bunch of primer, some green, and way too much clear coat on top of everything. And my sandblaster, like, you can pick it off, but my sandblaster doesn't want to take it off. So what I've been doing is coming over here and using some 40 grit and this little cookie here and roughing it up as much as possible to where I'm not sanding this whole thing down by hand, because that kind of defeats the purpose of the sandblaster. But I'm taking off at least the clear, that way the sandblaster can get through this like significantly quicker. I am now down to one more of these that needs sandblasted, this one, and I think I've talked myself into going back to the store and getting gloss black just for these. That way it doesn't have to be an extremely high temperature paint. Like, the caliper paint's good for like 900 degrees or whatever. I can get some wheel paint for this because the transfer of heat isn't anywhere close on these things. So I think I'm going to go back and get some gloss black. That way it breaks it up a little bit. I'm not a fan of just painting everything flat black. I really didn't want the suspension pieces to be flat black because they absorb brake dust and don't do very well as far as brake cleaner and brake fluid and any other kind of chemicals. So I have one more part store to try to see if they have gloss in the caliper stuff, and if they don't, I'll just get some gloss for these guys, and we'll actually try and get some stuff painted so we can assemble this hopefully tonight. Yeah, it like centers it. All right, it's Sunday, and I managed to pretty much not do anything. It's like 3 o'clock, but it happens. It's also supposed to be Christmas vacation or holiday vacation, whatever. And I don't know. That couch sucked me up. I went around to a bunch of parts stores because I ran into some problems last night. So I was assembling all of this. Got my bearings. Just need to pack those, put those in. Went through all of my seals, and somehow I only ordered a single front rear seal, or back of the spindle seal, whatever you want to consider that. I don't understand how that happened. I ordered everything all together. I don't know how I ordered a singular one of those. So I went to the parts store. Luckily, I found one this morning. I'd say we're pretty close to the DC area. To give you an example of where I'm based out of in Virginia, there's probably 50 parts stores within like a 1 hour drive, I guess. They're everywhere. And Googling or going on their websites, going to Advance, going to AutoZone, going to O'Reilly's, going to CarQuest, going to every place that I can think of that sells parts, I found one seal. Luckily, that's all I needed was one seal. So the other problem I ran into is I bought calipers that are supposed to be loaded and supposed to be coated with paint and just ready to be slapped on. Apparently, they sell semi-loaded, which comes with no pads, but everything else. This one is coated. Like this clearly has a paint on it, and it looks really nice. And this one, I don't know if the camera picks it up. The difference between this and this, they didn't bother to paint this part. They only did the top. And I don't have pads, so I looked around, and luckily I found an O'Reilly's warehouse or hub or whatever they consider it. They just happened to be the same people that had the seal and the brake pads. So I got some cheapy brake pads. It's literally the only ones I could find around here just to put it together. Because who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'll probably buy a decent set of brake pads later on from like Rock Auto or something, which is where I actually ordered the calipers that I thought were supposed to be loaded and painted. We're getting off track here. So I have enough parts to hopefully put the front end back together because this took way too long. Between the sandblasting and removing paint and painting and drying and discovering that I have to paint things I didn't plan on painting, and I got paint for that, so hopefully it matches somewhat. We're working on putting it back together. So I'm going to get the calipers painted, the wheel bearings packed and greased and installed. That's the plan. That's what we got to try and get done today, because it's Christmas Eve. Christmas is tomorrow, and I usually make my mom something for Christmas because she doesn't want anything bought from a store, and I haven't made anything. So that's what I need to do. I need to whip up something that's cool for my mom and get to work and do stuff. That's what we're. One thing I didn't buy while I was out today was gloves. So here we go. It's always good to get your hands absolutely covered in grease right before you handle something that you're going to paint. So I thought it was a little weird that this wasn't painted, and okay, and clearly they had machined this surface here. Like they had machined it enough to where you could see the dicam fluid that they put on there, so they knew how far they had to cut off of this. So I assembled everything after I got done painting all of this, and after it was assembled, the wheel couldn't spin. So I was like, maybe the new brake pads I have are the wrong ones and they're too thick. Swap the old brake pads, nothing. Swapped this slider pin over from that one because this one is actually longer than the factory one, which is kind of weird. Thought I had it fixed, still didn't turn. So I just swapped out the caliper bracket for the old green one. And the only reason that I bought any of this stuff was to save time. So I wouldn't have to strip all the paint off of this green stuff and repaint it. Because I knew how many hours I would have and tied up into it, and it was worth just buying the $30 complete caliper. But apparently that's not the case. So now I'm going to spend another hour and a half or so taking all the paint off of that, repainting it, and reassembling all of this again after I take this apart. It's pretty cool. It's my I really like doing mechanical work and then doing it like 4 more times just to confirm that I did it right. Oh, I don't know if we're gonna get to anything else today. I still got to work on stuff, and it's already 5 o'clock. 2 hours. It's been trying to mess with that side and this side and put it all together on something that should have taken probably half an hour, maybe. Before I finish what I was going to tell y'all, I have something to show y'all. Some parts started to show up today. So I reached out to a Mazda group on Facebook to ask some guys if they had some tailgates. A couple guys hit me up saying that they did. I think only one guy actually sent me pictures, and he said that he wasn't totally sold on getting rid of his stash of tailgates, which I completely understand because I hoard parts myself. So him being the only guy that was sort of willing to sell me a tailgate, I started looking into other means of where to get a tailgate, and you can actually buy them brand new off eBay, and they're really cheap and surprisingly good quality. I was kind of taken back by how nice they are. So, let me see. I'll just open this stuff out here. I got a tailgate, and I haven't actually looked at this yet. I got a brand new paintable bumper because I want to color match the front end because there's nothing else chrome on the entire truck. I have new mirrors that aren't chrome. They had chrome mirrors on it before. There's no chrome. So that will be paint matched, eventually the same gray. And the other thing that I was talking about brand new tailgate. No dents, no dings, no rust. Nobody shaved any parts of it. So all it needs is scuffed, primed, and painted. So back to what I was saying. Well, while we're waiting for stuff to dry, I'm going to kill some time. The glass polishing stuff showed up today. I have been messing with it, trying to figure out what speed to put the buffer on and whatnot. So you can see it like where the light catches it in the edge of the camera. Actually, you can really see it all through here. Like in person, it's actually hard to see through. My buddy James swears that he can't see it, which I don't know what he's talking about. Like there's an actual haze. It's pretty bad. So I've been wanting to buy this stuff for my Caprice because my Caprice before I bought it sat in the woods for like 15 years. But I could never justify buying all of these things to do just the Caprice. Like it seemed weird to polish the windows on something that's supposed to be a rat rod. Oh, I thought I cracked the glass. It's a piece of tint. Like that little, yeah. Ooh, man, a heart beating a little quick there. It's hard to justify the, like, I think I spent like 40 bucks or 50, I don't know what it was. It was kind of pricey on all of this stuff to just do that car. But now that I need to do multiple vehicles, it was a little bit more justifiable. So that's what I'm trying to do right now while I'm waiting for that stuff to dry. So we're doing some bouncing back and forth and trying to get something done. I'm trying to salvage the weekend, pretty much. So what I'm going to try and do is polish like the center of the window, and I'll leave the outsides to see if the camera can pick up exactly what I'm trying to say here and how bad this actually is. See the line through there? Terrible water spots. Nice and clean. There are a ton of scratches in this glass from years of it being a truck. But at least the water spots are gone, and it is removing slowly some of the lighter scratches. So while I'm waiting for that, I'm just gonna polish this and maybe do the windshield real quick. Alright, so I tried it on the windshield. The windshield is pretty messed up because whoever did the body work to the truck couldn't control themselves with the DA and they ran it all across the windshield. There's little pigtails all along the edge of this thing. That stuff isn't strong enough to take that off. It took off a lot of scratches, which is crazy because the windshield's still terribly scratched. So, see those little guys right there? Those are all along the edge. And then there's actual, can you hear that? Those are sanding gouges from a block sander. And they're all over the place. So, which really sucks to replace something that's still like technically good. But you can see here, all that. It's covered in little rock chips. It's covered in sanding marks, so as much as I don't like just buying random stuff, I'll eventually probably replace this before the truck gets painted. That way there's no chance that the paint job gets screwed up when they're replacing the windshield. That stuff on the rear glass though, well worth the money. 100% worth the money. It is, don't mind that, there's the glue from the tint that I didn't get off, but it is extremely clear. Like, besides my reflection, it's wild. It's like new glass again. It's still covered in scratches. There's some pretty deep gouges in there, like right here. Such a terrible noise, but huge, huge difference. Like, it doesn't even look like there's glass there. And before, you could barely see through it. It's crazy. If anybody wants the link to that, again, I have no sponsors of any type, but it's worth the money. It's, I don't know how you pronounce this. Griots, fine polish. And then I got this. Apparently this is kind of like Rain-X in a way. I'll try this after everything's done, because the parts truck that these doors came off of, I haven't looked at the glass in them, but I imagine the glass is probably just as bad, because the guy I bought it from, it was sitting under a tree in the alley. So it's probably pretty rough. So I'm going to finish up the front end and probably wrap this thing up. Well, after, let's see what time it is. After, that was pretty close, an hour and 20 minutes. I got the, everything sandblasted, and yet again, that green stuff didn't want to come off. I think part of that is my air compressor that's been on its last leg for like a solid 10 years. It's probably 16 years old, and it's been used and abused, and I've added oil to it like 2 times. It probably doesn't have any oil in it right now. It's pretty cool, but whatever. Yeah, this, you can actually see the shiny spots. That's where this was coming in contact with the pad. So instead of the pads being able to float in here, this is just a little bit too thick to where once you bolted everything together, they were just locked into place. So now that is trash, even though it's brand new, and all of this is assembled and looking good. That color is pretty darn close. But yeah, a little bit of spray paint and some time completely changes the look of these things. I'm going to try and clean these guys up. Probably paint them with that cast stuff to break it up a little bit. I don't know if I'll do that right now. It's already 6:30, and usually on Sundays I try to quit by 7 or 8, and I still need to make a gift. So as much as it sucks, I'm probably gonna have to stop working on the truck today and pick this back up this week. But we made pretty good progress. As much as I was held back by lack of me paying attention to the parts I ordered and lack of things actually fitting and whatnot, progress is progress. The brakes, as far as attached to this portion, are done. So this week we can mount the, I don't even know where that thing went. We can mount the booster, need to paint the booster. We can mount the master cylinder and the distribution block or the proportioning valve and start making some lines. And hopefully get the lines whipped up and mounted and everything next week. And maybe we'll do some more welding and grinding in the meantime to help with the ADD thing. I really need to do the shocks. Kind of disappointed I didn't get to do the shocks today, but I just ran out of time. So yeah, again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't been here before, go check out all the old videos, and we'll see y'all next week.